වියලී මියදෙන්නට පෙර ඔබ නිවා සනහන අමාවැස්ස.
To invoke blessings to late Mr. M.A. Rupasena, Mrs. Hema Rupasena, Mr. Buddhadasa Vikramanayaka, Mrs. Hema Vikramanayaka, Mrs. Mainona Fonseca, Mrs. Elpinona Ranasinghe, Mrs. N.D. Agnes, Mrs. Sheila Pereira, Mr. Albert Vikramanayaka, Mrs. Laverencia Vikramanayaka, Mr. Suarez Atawuda, Mrs. Miraya Atawuda, and all deceased ones. Courtesy by Rohan Mirisage, son, Puspa Mirisage, daughter, Rohana Atawuda, son, Rupani Atawuda, daughter, children and grandchildren.
May my homage to the gem of the Supreme Buddha. The Buddha is my refuge every day. May my homage to the gem of the Supreme Dhamma. The Dhamma is my refuge every day. May my homage to the gem of the Supreme Sangha. The Sangha is my refuge every day. May my homage to the Supreme Triple Gem. The Triple Gem is my refuge every day. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Samanta Chakravalesu Atra Gachantu Devata Saddhammang Munirajasa Sunantu Saggamokkadang Dhammasavana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta Dhammasavana Kalo Ayang Bhadanta. May all divine beings arrive here to listen to sublime Dhamma expounded by the fully enlightened one. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Honor to the Supreme Buddha, the Blessed One, the Exalted One, the fully enlightened one. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Meritorious devotees, Dhamma friends, now you all are going to listen to sublime Dhamma expounded by the fully enlightened one. Today, this Dhamma sermon is specifically expounded in order to transfer merits to the departed Mr. M.A. Rupasena and Mrs. Hema Rupasena, Mr. Buddhadasa Vikramanayaka and Mrs. Hema Vikramanayaka, in order to transfer merits to them. And this Dhamma sermon is sponsored by Mr. Rohan Mirisage, the son, Mrs. Pushpa Mirisage, the daughter, Mr. Rohan Atawuda, the son, Mrs. Rupani Atawuda, the daughter. So, in order to transfer merits to them, this Dhamma sermon is expounded for you. We all know the Supreme Buddhas are born to this world after a lapse of time. The Buddhas are born in order to deliver Dhamma for the innocent beings. who are suffering in the dangerous samsara. When the Buddhas are born, the light arises in the world and darkness is dispelled. The darkness of ignorance is dispelled. The light of wisdom arises in the world. Generally, the world is always covered up with darkness of ignorance. That is, not knowing the Four Noble Truths, namely the truth of suffering, the cause of suffering or origin of suffering, the cessation of suffering, and the path leading to the cessation of suffering. These Four Noble Truths are expounded or comprehended by the fully enlightened one after a lapse of time. Having completed 10 perfections for eons and eons of time. Therefore, meritorious devotees, Dhamma friends, the birth of the Buddha is a factor to be happy. It is one of the happiest factor in the world. And birth as a human being is a happiest factor. Therefore, we all are fortunate beings as long as we have encountered magnificent golden time, that is the era of Gautama Buddha's dispensation. And also, we are born as human beings who can understand the Dhamma, the sublime Dhamma of the fully enlightened one. So this occasion, if one uses appropriately, one can gain the eternal happiness that is attaining Nibbana. So this occasion, this opportunity, the kind of importance and the kind of value of this opportunity should be understood vividly by all of us. Unfortunately, majority of the population do not understand the value of this occasion or opportunity, the golden opportunity. Therefore, people tend to always gratify their senses, eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and mind. They do not want to use or employ those 6 bases, 6 faculties for the betterment of what is called accumulating merits in order to get rid of this dangerous sansaric life. Meritorious devotees, Dhamma friends, these 6 senses are there for us to accumulate merits as much as possible for the, in order to comprehend the Dhamma. The merits are essential for the comprehension of the Dhamma, the attaining Nibbana. Without knowing this fact, some foolish people tend to say, if we accumulate merits, the sansara will prolongate it. Even the bhikkhus who have ordained tend to utter such foolish utterances. But Buddha says, we have to accumulate merits as much as possible. Punyanche puriso kaira, kaira tetam punappunam, Thammi chandang kairata suko punyassa uchchayo. One should accumulate merits and one should do it again and again. One should like merits. Merits means happiness. These are the valuable ideas expounded by the fully enlightened one. In Ma Punya Bhai discourse, the Supreme Buddha claims you should not be fearful to, don't be afraid to merits. Ida nandati, pecha nandati, katapunyo ubhayata nandati. The person who accumulates merits is happy this world, is happy next world, is happy both worlds. Having accumulated merits, he is happy. Therefore, these are the kind of Dhamma given to us by the Supremely Enlightened One. Having not known the sublime Dhamma, some Buddhist monks and some lay people tend to criticize accumulating merits. That means they do not have refuge of the Supreme Buddha because they go against the sublime Dhamma of the Supreme Buddha. Why these things happen? Because they do not have confidence in the enlightenment of the fully enlightened one. In order to trod on the path of the dispensation, in order to practice Dhamma, the first step is to take refuge in the Triple Gem wholeheartedly. That is a very difficult thing in the world. Because you can just utter the stanzas just utter the sentences, Buddhan Saranang Gacchami, Dhamman Saranang Gacchami, Sanghan Saranang Gacchami, like that. But believing in the Buddha, the Dhamma and the Sangha is a very, very difficult thing. So majority of the people in the world, even though they utter these sentences, they don't believe in the Triple Gem. So very difficult thing is to believe in the Triple Gem. Having known the qualities, the 24 qualities. So first and foremost we must know the 9 qualities of the Supreme Buddha. Then we must know 6 qualities of the sublime Dhamma. Then we must know 9 qualities of the noble Sangha. If we interview the followers in the world who are so-called Buddhists, are unaware of these 24 qualities of the Triple Gem. Let 24 qualities be there. Even 9 qualities are not known by majority of the followers. So this is a very, very sorrowful situation. Why they are not aware of the 9 qualities of the Supreme Buddha? Because they have no utmost confidence in the enlightenment of the Buddha. Therefore, the first factor that we have to, first and foremost, the first factor that we have to pay attention on is Saddha, unshakable confidence. That is the one that we must fulfill first and foremost. Saddhati tathagatassa bodhin, Buddha says, Saddha means to have the confidence on the enlightenment of the Buddha. So, do you have that confidence? First and foremost, check it with you. If you do not have that confidence, you cannot become success as a follower. Meritorious devotees, Dhamma friends. Therefore, now onwards, you try to become successful by developing, cultivating unshakable confidence in the Supreme Buddha. It is a very difficult thing. When one possesses the unshakable confidence, one believes almost all the things expounded by the fully enlightened one. Then they never say what is called, where is the hell? Where is the heaven? Are we born again? Those fatuous statements, foolish statements are not made by anybody when one possesses the unshakable confidence in the Supreme Buddha. Therefore, if you make such statements, you can measure you as a person who does not possess the appropriate unshakable confidence in the Supreme Buddha, without which you cannot go forward in the path to attainment of the Nibbana, attainment of Nibbana. Therefore, the first thing is to take refuge in the Triple Gem wholeheartedly. Then, naturally, you tend to get to know all the 24 qualities as early as possible. When Saddha, or unshakable confidence, develops in you, you can understand by these special qualities, because these qualities are emerge in you. They tend to start operationalization. You tend to start getting to know 9 qualities of the Supreme Buddha, 6 qualities of the Sublime Dhamma, and 9 qualities of the Noble Sangha. Even today, still, hitherto, if you are unaware of these 24 qualities, tend to say what you have not developed the unshakable confidence towards the Supreme Buddha or the enlightenment. So today onwards, start to develop, cultivate unshakable confidence in the Supreme Buddha. When you cultivate unshakable confidence, naturally you start doing other or fulfilling other factors. Then there is a kind of likeness, tendency for you to practice sila. Then naturally you tend to preserve or observe 5 precepts. Then you do not like to kill animals. You do not like to steal things. You do not want to engage in sexual misconduct. You do not want to tell lies. Or you do not like to tell lies. You do not like to take alcohol and all that, intoxicants. Why? Because you know when you violate these 5 precepts, it is detrimental for your next birth. That means you will be unable to have a pleasurable birth due to violating these precepts. If you practice sila, then you can be born in a pleasurable plane. How can you practice sila? When you have saddha, you tend to practice sila. When you have saddha, you tend to learn the sublime Dhamma. generally, or earlier on, even I myself thought there are only 3 discourses expounded by the fully enlightened one. When I went to Dhamma school, I thought there are 9 discourses or sutras expounded by the fully enlightened one. When I became a Buddhist monk, I thought the Dhamma means only the Piruvana Pottwanse, in which 25 discourses are available. But later on, when I associate noble friends, I started to read the canonical texts, the sublime Dhamma of the Supreme Buddha. Then I got to know the Supreme Buddha as the Buddha has lived 45 years of time. When we make it to dates, then it becomes 16,550 like. Then I got to know the Buddha has expounded the discourses more than the dates that he lived. That means approximately Buddha has expounded 18,000 discourses. 18,000 discourses. Have you ever heard that Buddha has expounded 18,000 discourses? Fortunately, in my case, I started to read these discourses in 2000, year 2000. I ordained 15 years back. I started to read at least after 15 years of ordination. Sometimes some Buddhist monk is still unaware of the number of the discourses. I could most probably started to read these 17,705 discourses in year 2000. Now this is 2024. Now for the time being, I think I have been able to touch upon all the discourses. Most probably, I think majority of the discourses I have read, the very important discourses. Thousands of discourses I could read. So when your saddha develops, you tend to read these discourses. On other occasions, you tend to generally read newspapers and watch television and watch news always, teledramas, films, matches and musical programs and all that. But when your saddha is developed, you tend to watch other things, no problem, but you tend to read the discourses of the fully enlightened one. So you have some idea, I want to read almost all the discourses expounded by the fully enlightened one. I must know what has been expounded by the fully enlightened one. Now if you don't have such ideology, valuable idea, notion, that means your saddha has not been developed. Therefore, when your saddha is developed, another indicator is that you tend to read, know, study, not to pass examinations, but to comprehend Dhamma, the discourses. Saddha. When saddha is developed, you tend to follow disciplinary rules. That is sila. Then you tend to study Dhamma knowledge, sutta. Then you tend to start practicing giving, chaga. That means you start dana. Then you start to develop your wisdom, panya. What is wisdom means? The knowing of three signata appropriately. What are the three signata? Tilakkana, anicca, impermanence, dukkha, suffering or unsatisfactoriness, anatta, soullessness or unsubstantiality. So you tend to understand these three signata when you have what is called unshakable confidence. By measuring these five aspects in you, you can understand whether you possess what is called unshakable confidence. If you do not have unshakable confidence, then start to cultivate, develop unshakable confidence in you. Meritorious devotees, Dhamma friends. Buddhas are born to this world after a lapse of time, as I mentioned. Buddhas are born to this world after a lapse of time, as I mentioned earlier. For 100 years, only 7 Buddhas are appeared in the world. Namely, the Buddha Vipassi, the Buddha Sikhi, the Buddha Vesabu, the Buddha Kakusanda, the Buddha Konagamana, the Buddha Kashyapa, and the Buddha Gautama, the one who is born before 2500 years ago. We have taken refuge in the Gautama Buddha. Therefore, this is the dispensation of the Gautama Buddha. Therefore, this dispensation is very important for all of us. Within this dispensation, we must try to get ultimate benefit. How can we gain ultimate benefit out of this dispensation? As I mentioned earlier on, we have to take refuge in the triple gem wholeheartedly first and foremost. Then we have to practice Sila. Then we have to practice the Dhamma knowledge or getting to know the Dhamma knowledge. Then we have to practice charity, Chaga or alms giving, Dana. And we have to develop our wisdom, Panya. Meritorious devotees, association of the noble friends is the first factor here, the very important factor. If we associate noble friends, they direct us for the taking refuge in the triple gem wholeheartedly. They direct us for the journey to Nibbana. They direct us in order to control the birth. The most, important thing is in the Dhamma is to put an end to this sansaric life. That means we must not be born again. If we are born, we have to suffer. Jatipi dukkha. Earlier on, I did not understand as a child in the Dhamma school what is this dukkha or jatipi dukkha. I did not understand. But now, when we get to know the Dhamma to a certain extent, we are able to understand. When we define what is called jati, what is meant by birth, then it is easy to understand. Birth means, or jati means, birth of an eye, birth of an ear, birth of a tongue, birth of a body, and birth of a nose, birth of a body, birth of mind. Now this is what is called jati, birth. When there is jati, there is decay, jara. When there is decay, there is sickness, vyadhi. And when these are there is death. And once again, in terms of the wholesome and unwholesome actions that we have accumulated, conducted, the next birth is decided upon. Sometimes in a hell, sometimes in the hell, sometimes in the animal plane, sometimes in the preta world, sometimes in the asura world, sometimes in heaven. Very rarely, if we have developed jhana, then we can be born, jhana or absorptions, then we can be born in the Brahma world, celestial world. So that is a very, very rare thing in these days. Therefore, it is very important to practice those 5 factors, at least to be born in a pleasurable plane, what is called sugati. Now, at a time when this kind of situation is available, we must try to be born in a pleasurable plane at least. Now, human world is very, very difficult place now. We know there are so many diseases. When those diseases are spread, broke out, we cannot at least practice Dhamma. Now, Corona, COVID-19, you can remember, we cannot even go out of the house. How can we actually go to a sacred place in order to practice Dhamma on such occasion? But when we are born in a pleasurable plane like heaven, we can practice Dhamma and we can associate noble friends who have attained first stage of sainthood, second stage of sainthood, third stage of sainthood. That is Anagami level. After Anagami level, they are born in what is called celestial world or Brahma world, and then they can attain Nibbana there itself. So this kind of practice or this kind of steps, these kind of steps should be taken by us on this kind of situation. Otherwise, we cannot make use of this golden opportunity. In one of the discourses, Buddha says, having taken tiny amount of soil onto his nail, this is found in Nekaakaara discourse of the Samyutta Nikaya. O bhikkhus, whether the amount of this soil is greater than that of earth, then they answered, O venerable sir, the amount on your nail is very tiny. We cannot compare that amount with that of earth. Then, bhikkhus, you must know, among the people in the world, the very tiny amount of people are able to be born in a pleasurable plane. Majority of them, just like the soil of the earth, are born in the 4 hells. That is, apaya or hell or purgatory, then animal plane, then ghost plane, and then asura world. Therefore, we must strive to be born in a pleasurable plane. Very, very small amount of people get this opportunity. When we actually measure this, in terms of the present calculations, I think less than 10,000 people are able to be born in a pleasurable plane. Majority of them are born in the four hells. But people do not understand this. They are running away, they are run after money, wealth, power, fame, beauty, abilities, and various other, secular things. They do not want to run after supramundane things because they do not know the actual situation, the real situation. They are dreaming about. Those who listen to sublime Dhamma appropriately get to know these things. So even today, majority of the people are unaware of this factor. They are innocent. Once again, they have to be born in the dangerous samsara and suffer. So if you are wise enough, you try to listen to this noble Dhamma and practice and try to escape from this dangerous samsaric life. Therefore, meritorious devotees, in this Dhamma sermon specifically, I wanted to emphasize the main factor to enter to the path, that is Saddha. That is the factor that I emphasize here. Actually, when you have Saddha, the environment of the house, environment of the religious place also tend to change to the betterment or to the best part. That means now suppose in your house there is a place for worship. In some of the places in houses, that place is very dark, very dirty. Not only Supreme Buddha's statue is there are God's statues, photos, all are there on the same place. But when you develop your Saddha, you especially dedicate a place for the Supreme Buddha. Sometimes you keep the idols of gods or the photos of gods and all that, but you don't keep all that on the same place where the Supreme Buddha is kept. Because you know, Supreme Buddha is the highest person in the world. Supreme Buddha is Sattha Deva Manussana, teacher of all gods and men. Therefore, you don't keep other statues in the place or on the place where Buddha statue is kept. It indicates your development in Saddha. And in temples, maybe in religious places, the place is kept very, clean and very, very peaceful, and the light can be seen in the place. Darkness is dispelled, no darkness, and all the religious activities, and especially chanting, pirit, lighting lamps for the Supreme Buddha, all are done then. When the, unshakable confidence is developed in the clergy, especially the Buddhist monks, and the devotees in the place, and in the devotees in the houses. So, that is also a factor we can measure the unshakable confidence of the persons living in the places. If you have unshakable confidence, in your house, it is very clean, no dirty. Specifically, the Buddha statue is kept very, very nicely in an honorable way, and that place is very clean. You always offer flowers and do other pujas and do especially you light oil lamps and all that. And in a temple, the Bodhi tree, and in that particular area, and seats for offering flowers, and pagoda, all the areas, everywhere is very clean and nicely arranged, because you honor the Supreme Buddha, the triple gem. That can be understood by, your what is called unshakable confidence can be understood by the environment in the temple and in the house. Therefore, that you must keep the place in an honorable manner. Therefore, meritorious devotees, Dhamma friends, you must strive to develop your saddha, unshakable confidence, and develop other factors. Then, I think you may be able to make use of this dispensation for the betterment of you. That is, in order to cultivate saddha, in order to accumulate merits, in order to get rid of this dangerous sansaric life, in order to be born in a pleasurable plane, and in order to put an end to this sansaric life as early as possible. So that should be our major aim. In this Dhamma sermon, therefore, I wanted to emphasize the value of this dispensation and the danger in sansaric life, how to make use of this golden opportunity. All these factors are the things that I wanted to emphasize here, so very rarely. Therefore, meritorious devotees, when you have saddha, you tend to accumulate merits. There are 3 ways to accumulate merits, that is dana, then sila, then meditation bhavana. Out of these 3, meditation is the highest merit, then sila, then dana. If you practice 5 precepts, you can gain merits, rather than offering to 100 arahants, rather than offering to 100 silent Buddhas or Pacceka Buddhas, rather than offering to, rather than offering to the fully enlightened one. And also, if you practice meditation on loving kindness, just a time that you get to smell a flower, then you gain merits rather than offering to 100 Pacceka Buddhas, rather than offering to dana to 100 arahants, 100 Pacceka Buddhas, and the fully enlightened one. Out of all merits, the highest merit is, meditation on what is called anicca, that means impermanence. The perception of impermanence, anicca sanya, is the highest merit in the Buddhist dispensation. Therefore, having listened to this Dhamma sermon, you must try to comprehend the 4 noble truths within the regime of Gautama Buddha Sasana. May the noble triple gem bless with you all. Today, this Dhamma sermon is delivered specifically to transfer merits to the departed Mr. M.A. Rupasena and Mrs. Hema Rupasena, Mr. Buddhadasa Vikramanayaka and Mrs. Hema Vikramanayaka, by Rohan Mirissage, the son, Pushpa Mirissage, the daughter, Rohan Atavu, the son, Rupani Atavu, the daughter. Therefore, we must transfer merits, the merits that we have accumulated by delivering this Dhamma sermon, listening to this Dhamma sermon. Let us transfer these merits to our departed relatives. May they be able to comprehend the fully enlightened, may they be able to comprehend the 4 noble truths within the regime of Gautama Buddha Sasana. May you all be able to comprehend the Four Noble Truths within the regime of Gautama Buddha Sasana. May the Noble Triple Gem bless with you all. ආකාසට්ඨාච බුම්මට්ටා දේවානාගා මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරන් රක්칸තු බුද්ධ ශාසනං ආකාසට්ඨාච බුම්මට්ටා දේවානාගා මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරන් රක්칸තු බුද්ධ දේශනං ආකාසට්ඨාච බුම්මට්ටා දේවානාගා මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිත්වා චිරන් රක්칸තු තං සදා. May you all be well and happy.
වියලී වියදෙන්නට පෙර ඔබ නිවා සනහන අමාවැස්ස